welcome to the 94th Annual Garden City Co-op Stockholders Meeting. Your Board of Directors appreciates your attendance today and your commitment to your co-op. We gather today to not only conduct the business of your co-op, but to also celebrate our heritage. The red chairs your board is sitting on are the original chairs from the boardroom of the Kansas wheat growers. Herb Clutter, a Garden City Co-op Director and Chairman of the Board, was the founder of both Kansas and National Associations of Wheat Growers. In his role as a leader in the cooperative movement, he didn't just sit in these chairs passively as a director and review decisions. He actively helped build the infrastructure that supports the agricultural prosperity we enjoy today. We dedicate this meeting to the leaders that have served before us and commit ourselves to supporting the dreams of those that follow us. It is this heritage that strengthens and directs us still today. We thank you for being here. Your involvement is important.
The Garden City Cooperative Equity Exchange was organized 35 years ago by local farmers in response to a need for a better marketing system for their grain. Today, from a modest beginning, the Garden City Cooperative Equity Exchange owns and operates the largest country grain elevator in the world, with a total grain storage capacity in excess of 2.5 million bushels. Manager Kenneth Lyon and Assistant Manager Fred Eaton examine a sample of the last shipment. When the grain arrives from the farms after harvesting, it is weighed at the elevator onto a scale which is capable of weighing 60,000 pounds at a time. The grain is tested to ascertain the amount of moisture in the load in order to determine what the final weight of the grain will be when the moisture is removed for actual storage. The co-op has branches in 2 counties for the convenience of its stockholder members, as well as retail outlets for the general public, which may also enjoy the service. The grain being unloaded is sometimes referred to as Kansas corn by local people because of its similarity to regular corn in nutritive value. This is feed grain locally grown and used for cattle feed mixes, poultry mixes, and as a substitute for corn mixes. Each year, the Garden City Cooperative Equity Exchange handles farm products with a value in excess of $5 million. The Garden City Cooperative Equity Exchange has taken a very fine place in our town. The organization takes its place in contributing to the wealth and development of Garden City and its surrounding agricultural area. The business affairs of the organization are under the direction of a 7-man board, all of whom are local active farmers. Directors are elected by the vote of the stockholders at annual stockholders' meetings. Each stockholder has only 1 vote at the meetings, regardless of the number of shares of stock he owns. 90% of the Garden City Cooperative Equity Exchange business is done through its members. Unloading grain at the elevator is only one of the many services of the Garden City Cooperative Equity Exchange. This is one of the largest elevators in the state, holding 1,320,000 bushels in all.
Good afternoon, everybody. The Garden City Co-op Incorporated bylaws require a quorum of 5% of the voting membership, or 50 of the members entitled to vote, whichever is less. We have 186 members registered this afternoon, and I declare a quorum is present. The official notice of the annual meeting of the common stockholders of Garden City Co-op Incorporated was mailed on November the 15th, 2013, in accordance with the bylaws. I have here a certified signed by an employee of the Garden City, Kansas Post Office that 1,352 official notices were mailed on November the 15th, 2013. The minutes of the 2012 annual meeting were provided with the official notice of the Garden City Co-op Incorporated website. I would ask that the minutes be approved as provided.
Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Any corrections? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Good afternoon. I get to welcome all of the guests that have joined us today, but there's a couple of people that I would like to thank before we get started. So a new addition to the Garden City Co-op this year is Trevor Hands and his videographer abilities. And you've seen one of them, you're going to get a chance to see another one. But I'd like to take a couple of minutes and just thank Trevor for what a great job he's done on our website as well as entertainment for the annual meeting. So Trevor, excellent job. Thank you. There's a couple other gentlemen here today that I'd like to thank, and that was for their part in the video. That is pilots Max Burney and Gerald Leitner. And you saw some of the video that Trevor took. I made it on one of the planes, was unavailable for the second trip. You've never really lived until you've done some video work with the spray pilot before, but it's a whole different perspective. So very much appreciate you guys helping us out and making that video of the beautiful Western Kansas scenery. Thank you very much. One thing that I want to make sure is to thank everybody that helped this meeting come together. And I know I'm going to leave out a whole list of names, but for Caroline, Vivian, Sharon, Phyllis, and Brendan, the main office, that pulled this thing together, for Jeff and Caleb and Michael and Trevor and IT that make all this stuff work, and all of the employees that help sign everybody up. I appreciate your efforts. It's going to be a fun afternoon. If we keep getting 186 members, we're going to have to open up some more checkout lanes, some speedy service lanes. So I appreciate your patience. We weren't expecting this good to turn out, but it's a beautiful thing to have happen. So thank you very much to the employees that made this come together. We're blessed to have a lot of guests that have joined us. They're close, dear partners of the Garden City Co-op and close friends of us. And we'll be introducing some of them as we go through the meeting. But just to make sure that we recognize everybody that's traveled out here to show their commitment to your co-op, I'll just read them off. Kelly Krotz from Cobank, Michael Walton from Cobank, Max Burney, Stacy McVeigh from Plains Equity Co-op, Kendall Poland from Sublette Co-op, Jonathan Leitner from Commerce Bank, Nick Muting from Lindbergh Vogel, Greg Johnston, our insurance agent from KFSA, Mitch Williams, CEO of KFSA, and Amy Fairchild, Director of Marketing for KFSA, Gary Friesen from Scott Co-op, Leslie Kaufman comes all the way from Topeka from Kansas Co-op Council, and Charlie Sauerwein from our close partner out at Wind River Grain. So please help me welcome them. In both our welcome and in the video, we've talked at length about the tradition here at Garden City Co-op, and so I think it's appropriate if you have served on the board of directors at any time in the past, if you would please stand and be recognized. We've got one more person here today that I'd like to recognize, and he's a guy I feel very close to and has helped me a lot. He's broke trail for me as general manager. And so if Harley Folks, previous general manager, if you'd stand up, I'm glad you're here today as well. Thanks for Harley. Should have taken my agenda with me. We're changing things up a little bit this year in how we present our financial statements. And so Nick Muting from Lindbergh Vogel Pierce Ferris is here to talk about their opinion of our financial statements. And then the actual financial presentation will be given by CFO Brent Mers. So Nick, if I could get you to come up front here and tell us how we did.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Nick Muting. I'm a shareholder with the firm Lindbergh Vogel Pierce Ferris. My office is in Dodge City, Kansas. And like Joan said, we're going to do something a little differently. Normally your auditor gets up and would present the financial statements to you, but this year Brent Mers is going to do that. And although I'm not presenting the financials, I am happy to report that the audit firm of Lindbergh Vogel Pierce Ferris has issued an unmodified, or also known as a clean opinion, on the financial statements that have been posted to the cooperative's website, and that were used as the basis for the presentation that Brent will be making. On behalf of LVPF, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be your independent auditor. And if there is any questions of me at the conclusion of the meeting, please feel free to ask.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brent Mers, the Chief Financial Officer for your cooperative. What we're going to talk about today are your financial statements. There's a few things that I want to point out about how our financial statement is different than what you've normally been seeing. Then we'll quickly look at the financials, and finally we'll look at a few charts to show the strength of the Garden City Co-op's balance sheet and what we've done in the past year. As you saw in the video, the very first, Garden City Co-op comes from very humble beginnings. And we're still a very humble group now, your employees as well as your board of directors. However, today's not a day to be humble. Today we're going to get up here and we're going to sing the praises of your co-op. And I'm going to tell you how well you guys are, how strong your cooperative is, and how proud I am to work for it because of the strength that it has and the reputation that it has. So we're going to toot our horn today. Today's the day to do that. The income statements, the first thing I want to talk about are the changes that you'll see and why we've done that. In the past, what you looked at, we had the financial statement that came down, and it had local earnings, and then it had the other earnings, and then finally the total number. We've been looking at this for a long time, trying to figure out a better way to show that made more sense for the way the Garden City Co-op does its business. And local earnings, while they're important to a point, really don't tell the story of the Garden City Co-op. What we want to show you is how the Garden City Co-op is able to generate cash, and by doing that, we're able to provide the services that you guys deserve, and not be encumbered with worrying about so much about how much was local, how much came from here. Because to be honest with you, I think some of the decisions that the board has been looking at and making, if they're driven by local earnings, we never would have done things. If they were driven by local earnings, we wouldn't have built the Pine Mill facility, wouldn't have added grain storage, concrete storage in places that we have. We wouldn't have done a lot of things that we've done, so it didn't make a lot of sense to do that. The new format is still, there's two of them in your handout that you got. The first one is still GAAP standard, just takes out the local earnings and puts it all together to come with one total. But that's really not the one I want to talk about today. The one we're going to talk about today is one that's in there, and it's a non-GAAP statement. By saying non-GAAP, I'm not saying that we monkeyed with numbers or anything like that. The numbers are the same. It's strictly a matter of how everything's organized. And we believe that the Garden City Co-op and the board of directors does it well, is that this is a statement that we look at for the cash generation that your cooperative provides through operations each year. So we're going to come down to a cash total there, and then finally we'll add back in the non-cash items as well as depreciation expense to come up with a total for the ending. Looking at the non-GAAP statement, we had total sales for the year of just over $311 million. Of that, $130 million came from the grain department, not quite $23 million from supply, and then finally nearly $158 million from commercial, which is mostly transport loads of fuel. Gross margins off that's just over $19 million in cash, and other operating cash income is at $7.9 million, and that's storage, patronage that came in cash, investments that came in cash, etc. So total gross income in cash to your co-op was $26,946,896. Expenses for the year totaled $18.3 million. Of that, $9.77 million in personnel expense, $3.58 in fixed expenses, that doesn't include depreciation, and then operating expenses of nearly $5 million. And then we paid income tax, of $571,000 on the savings. So our net cash savings, get a little close to that. Net cash savings is $8,069,024. That's actual cash that we brought in after expenses. Non-cash items, deferred patronage dividends of $6.857 million, the majority of that being from CHS and United Suppliers. Deferred investment income is the income that we did not receive in cash from our two LLCs that we're involved in, Wind River Grain LLC and East Kansas Chemical LLC. We had depreciation expense of $3.3 million, and that number it's not skewed, but I can promise you next year that number is going to be bigger because of the fact that the Pine Mill facility and some of the other stuff that we had came online right at the end of the year, so there's not a full year's depreciation on that. So when that hits, next year's depreciation will be bigger. The number that I am very, very excited about, and I think you should be, and the rest of the management team and employees of the co-op are, total net savings of $12,874,389. That's the second biggest year ever for the Garden City Co-op, surpassed only by 2008, which was just an incredible year, just over $17 million. 2008 was a great grain year. 2013 was not a great grain year, and yet we're still able to churn out cash of over $8 million, as well as have a $12.8 million net savings. On the balance sheet, nothing's changed on that. The balance sheet, that's a picture in time of where the co-op is as of August 31st, 2013. And I think Nick said it best when he described the balance sheet as an accumulation of everything that's happened since the Garden City Co-op began in 1919 until August 31st of 2013. And you're going to see, or if you've looked at it, you can see our balance sheet is very strong. Very strong. We're very proud of it. We have total assets of $125,568,200. Of that, $45,593,399 is current assets, which will be turned to cash within the next 12 months. We have investments of $46,036,209. Over $30 million of that is stock in CHS. And then the book value of your property, plant, and equipment is at $33,938,592. Long-term liabilities, big portion of that is the term debt that we've taken on for the facilities that we've built and upgraded, $19,483,911. And finally, the members' equity, that's the amount that you own in your company, the stock that you have, $73,513,779. That's the boring black and white stuff that we'll talk about. Now we get to look at the fun stuff. Working capital, the liquidity that your co-op has. This is what has allowed, given the bank faith in us to loan us money to build new facilities, to upgrade facilities. It's allowed us to make decisions that betters not only Garden City Co-op, but in turn benefits you on the farm. In 2000, the Garden City Co-op had $3.1 million in working capital. Of course, working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. In 2013, the year that just ended, we're at $13.02 million, an increase of almost $10 million in that time period. And remember, all this is being done at the same time that we've built over $28 million, or spent over $28 million in fixed assets since 2008. We've grown our balance sheet, and your working capital is very, very strong. Because of this liquidity that we have with our working capital, we're able to build the fixed assets either through financing with the bank because they've got confidence that we're going to be able to make the payments on it. As also, we have the ability to use cash if we need to. This next slide shows the total debt to the total equity. There's a baseline on there of 1, and anything that's under the baseline, the equity was less than the debt payments. Or excuse me, less than debt, not just debt payments. As you can see, since 2008, we've been above the line as your equity has grown tremendously during that period of time. Debt has increased as well, but not nearly as fast as the equity has. This chart right here shows the long-term debt that the co-op has had, I believe since 2000. The strong balance sheets allowed us to do this with the working capital and the balance sheet that we've had, to be able to borrow the money to go out over term, up to 10 years on some of the concrete, to build the facilities that you need to get the services and buy the equipment that we need to service your farms. In 2008, we had $9.7 million in term debt. At the end of 2013, we're at $19.48 million. That's an increase of a little under $10 million in term debt. But think about this. Since 2008, we've invested $28 million in facilities and equipment for your farms, and term debts went up $10 million of that. So we paid for a lot of that with earnings from the business that you guys do with us. An incredible amount of money. I see the banker down here turn white when he actually sees the actual amount, but it's okay. It's okay because this slide right here. This shows the percent of our long-term debt to the equity we have in the company. The bank requires us to be below 30%. That's one of the covenants that we need to meet. At the current year end, even with $19.48 million in term debt, we were at 26.5%. So we still got some dry powder to go out there if we need to borrow more term money to build more facilities, to do what we need to help your farms. So you can see since, other than 2007 when we were a little bit above the line, we've been well below the 30% covenants that we've had. So we've had dry powder for a long time, and we intend on keeping it. This slide right here shows you our ability to make those term payments. In 2008, 2013, we've averaged $3.9 million more in cash savings that we have had to make in principal payments. As you can see, there's a pretty good correlation going forward from when it started in 2002 up till about 2007, as the term payments and the cash savings were about on the same track there. Then beginning in 2007, when we started getting huge patronage dollars from CHS and some other things that we've done in the company, that changed and we started making much more cash than we had in term payments. That makes it a lot easier for us to make for your board to make the decisions that they need to make, once again, to help your farms by making your co-op stronger and providing the services that you need. This next slide is the net income slide. As you can see, other than 2008, this is the second largest year that your co-op's ever had. The red on there is the non-cash portion of it. In 2008, a large portion of the earnings were from non-cash. The blue is the cash portion of it. So not only is this the second largest year overall for your co-op, it's also the second largest year cash-wise, which isn't the same year as the second largest year overall. The second largest year overall for cash is actually 2010 at 8.0, or the highest one's in 2010 at $8.07 million. What this tells me is that the strategy that the board of directors and taken on by the management is working very well. And your cooperative is very strong. It will remain strong because of the decisions that they make and the balance sheet that we have to back up those decisions. I've got a couple more slides here, and then I'll get out of the way for John and Boyd. But this slide right here shows you the patronage departments that we have and the income that they made before, cash income before any administrative expenses were applied to it. The petroleum department made $3.72 million in cash, crop production $2.64 million, and grain right at $6 million, or a little over $6 million in cash. Save the best slide for last because this is the one that's got the patronage rates and the patronage amounts on it. As you can see, we're going to pay out $5,126,834 in total patronage. Of that, 30% again, or $1,538,050 will be in cash, with the remainder in deferred patronage. The rates this year, we're very proud of them. We'll be able to pay 17.99 cents per bushel on wheat and soybeans, 16.79 cents per bushel on corn and milo. Storage, we're going to return to you 29.73% of the storage that you paid us. Crop production, 5.58% on all your inputs. Petroleum to ag producers, the farmers that we had delivered, or your tanker loads that you took, 7.36%. And finally, commercial petroleum at 4.56%. So, as I said at the beginning, today is not a day to be humble. Today's a day to be very, very proud of your co-op. What it's able to accomplish last year in a year with a drought, with lower grain intakes, and tremendous patronage being paid back to you. So thank you, thank everyone for the business that you do with your co-op. It is truly appreciated. We look forward to serving you in the future. If anyone has any questions on the financial statements, be more than happy to answer them. You can ask now. I'll be in the back later. You can talk to John, Nick, or myself, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Are there any at this time? Thank you very much for letting me serve you, and I look forward to the future. Thanks.
My name is Corey Weathered. I farm with the Graham family north of Deerfield. I've been an associate for the last 2 years. During this time, I gained a significant respect for the agricultural cooperative system. As you all know, the Garden City Co-op has the motto, moving forward together. This is highly sought after by the board and management staff. For some, it might seem that it is hold on for dear life as we fly forward together, yet others may think that the co-op's not moving forward aggressively enough. Just keep in mind that everyone here has to be an optimist in their own way, or we'd be attending a how-to class on polishing gold bars for some and the rest of us coal. Instead, we are here excited about the future of the Garden City Co-op. I urge everyone to take a hard look at the role that cooperatives play in an agricultural community. The agricultural cooperative system is a driving factor in the competitiveness within all ag commodities and products. Keep in mind a saying when evaluating the co-op. She doesn't have to be the prom queen, but she does have to be good looking. Because as long as a local co-op is competitive, they are one of the farmers' best allies in today's agriculture. Thanks again to the board, the management staff, and everybody here at the Garden City Co-op for the experience over the last 2 years.
My name is Gordon Drees. I farm northeast of the garden with my father Robert, and for the past 2 years I've served as an associate director here at the co-op. During that time I've learned more about the operations of the co-op and also just the agricultural industry in southwest Kansas as a whole. Throughout my experience I've developed a very high opinion for the management team, board of directors, and the employees here at the co-op. I thought the business that was conducted in the boardroom was both very effective and very efficient. And I would like to thank the co-op and the board of directors for this experience, for letting me be an associate. And it's a position I would recommend very highly for anybody who's considering running to be a board of director here in the future. Thank you.
Very well done. It's good to know what we have to look forward to. It's my pleasure to represent the board of directors, and at this time I'd like to introduce them. Tom Mulville is our vice chairman. If you'd stand. He and his wife Roxy farm near Amy. Bruce Howard is our secretary treasurer. He and his wife Kelly Ray farm near Ulysses. Tyler Haynes is our assistant secretary treasurer, and his wife Amanda farm in the Pine Mill area. Tim Miller. Tim and his wife Rebecca farm in the Holcomb area. Mike Deaver. Mike Deaver and his wife Carol, who I think is here. Carol, would you stand? Farm in the Pine Mill area. Now, if I miss any other wives, please, I know you'll stand up. Bill Laughlin and his wife Donis farm in the Dighton area. You've already met Corey and Gordon, and also associate director is Matt Horton. He and his wife Aubrey farm in the Deerfield area, north of Deerfield, and Lynn Teeter. Then his wife Tracy farm in the Ulysses area. So far, we only have one new associate director to replace him. We're still working on replacing the other open position. And that's Nate Zingerman and his wife Amanda. And they farm with us in their farm. This afternoon, I forgot my speech. And so Caroline ran back to the headquarters to pick it up. And on her way back here, she was moving pretty fast on Kansas Avenue. She was running about 65 and a 40. And of course she got pulled over. And the policeman that pulled her over came up to the window and said, "Ma'am, can I see your license?" And Caroline, being the quick thinker that she is, she said, "I'm sorry, officer, but it got revoked 2 years ago for drunk driving." His brow furrows, and he straightens up and said, "Well, can I at least see the registration for your car?" And Caroline says, "I stole the car and I killed the driver and he's in the trunk." So the policeman said, "Ma'am, don't move. I'm calling for backup." So he whispers in his walkie-talkie for backup, and 5 minutes later we've got half of the police force in Garden City right around Caroline's car on Kansas Avenue. The chief of police, Mr. Hawkins, comes as well. And he comes up to the car and says, "Ma'am, can I see your license?" She politely pulls her license out of her purse and hands it to him. And he says, "Looks legitimate." And he says, "Can I see the registration for the car?" So she pulls it out of the glove box and hands it to him. And so he's kind of puzzled by this time. And he says, "Ma'am, stand back." And he pops open the trunk and he's all ready, to see a body back there. And there's nothing in there. And she shakes her finger at the first policeman and says, "Yeah, and I'll bet he told you I was speeding too." Caroline, thanks for bringing my speech back. In the past year, we've had 10 regular meetings. There's only been one director absence and 4 associate absences. We've represented you at the CHS annual meeting, the KFSA and CoBank meetings, Texas Co-op Council meetings, and neighboring cooperative annual meetings. At our strategic planning session last winter, we spent a majority of the time discussing the balance of spending our profits to either redeem stock or to build new facilities, but above all, maintaining a strong balance sheet. By this time, you should have received your check for the stock that we redeemed for the years 1991, 92, and part of 93. This should disprove the myth that you have to die to get your co-op stock. In fact, I contend you actually receive dividends from your stock every day because we have facilities that take care of the business we need to take care of. This is my final address as a board member. As I begin to think about what I wanted to say at this meeting, my mind wandered through all the people that I've met in this process. And I also thought of the changes that we've had. We've grown in size and scope, and we've honed our focus in being the type of business that behooves a successful cooperative. I thought of listing the change in our size, both physical and fiscal, but felt that might sound self-serving. It all boils down to the people that are involved. We are successful because of 3 groups of people. First, the farmers who developed this company. Second, the management who implemented the direction from the board members. And the employees that carried out the hard work. It gives me great satisfaction to be involved in such a process. Leaders like Mr. Ackley, that you saw earlier, Herb Clever, Otis Knowles, who's here today, and Roger Funk. They have positioned this cooperative to be a leader among cooperatives. Great managers like George Voth and Harley Folks were so productive in implementing the direction of the farmer boards. I think of employees over the years that I've known at the Garden City Co-op. Gail Laughlin, who I thought knew everything there was to know about tires. Grain employees like Sherm Berry and Kenny Elliott. Crop production employees like Lester Webb, Jay Warren, and Nat Avila. Petroleum employees like Cecil Dudley, Everett Glenn, Rocky Bell. Administration employees like Jerry Jones and Eunice Dinkle. We're successful farmers because of these people and what they've done for all of us. We owe a great debt to the individuals who stepped forward and shouldered the responsibility in creating an institution that works primarily for the owners, the farmers. The point I want to make is we all need each other to be successful, and that is why the cooperative model is the best. It was conceived to put a structure to our own company. The Small Business Administration, this definition of a co-op is a cooperative is a business or organization owned by and operated for the benefit of those using its services. Profits and earnings generated by the cooperative are distributed among the members, also known as user owners. It only makes sense to do business with your own company. This time I'd like to thank John McClellan for your help, your friendship. And I'm proud to say I got to be on the board while John McClellan was manager. I'd like to thank you, Ken Jameson. Ken, where are you? Okay. Ken, you have the confidence of many producers in the past and many producers today because of your diligence in what you do, and we appreciate that. Tim Giesick, you should be the turnaround king. How many years have we paid back patronage in crop production? That's pretty neat. You've really turned things around, and we appreciate that. Pete Mastis, One of the things I really enjoy doing, Pete, is going to the CHS meeting and hunting up the board that has the greatest number of gallons of fuel and gallons of lube. And Garden City Co-op is always at the top. And that's pretty neat. Thanks to you, Pete. Also like to thank Brent Mers. Brent, what strides we've made in being able to produce financials and be able to make good decisions in the boardroom because we have good financials. And how about Phyllis? Jan Cornett. Jan, where are you? Isn't it fun running a trucking company? Oh, it must be because you're always happy. Kirby Bradley. We really appreciate what you've done to help change the attitude in our business about working safely. It's been because of your leadership. We appreciate it. Caroline, your friendship and support during my time on the board is invaluable. And I sure appreciate it. And you've made us look good many times by remembering things that we should have remembered. And especially in our connection with people. I appreciate that. One of the new positions, Toby. Toby has a tie on today. And Toby, your leadership in our manpower is amazing. You've been able to help us move to be much more efficient with the help that we have. And it's only because of your leadership it's possible. Thank you. I hope I didn't miss anybody on my list. The list that I did earlier, I purposely did not reference people that were current employees because the employees that we have at this time in Garden City Co-op are an amazing group. And there are a lot of people within that group that will be all-stars. There'll be people that we talk about, years from now for their dedication and work in the cooperative. So I'd like for all the employees to stand, Garden City Co-op employees. These are the kind of people that have character to do the right thing because it's the right thing. And we appreciate what you do. I'd also like to thank Nick Muting for your help and advice, Ed Michael in the past, and Vern May, if you're here this evening. And appreciate all the things that you've done for us and helping make it successful. Most importantly, though, I'd like to thank you as members of the cooperative. Without your patronage, we don't have a cooperative. And this is your business. This is your company. And it's a great deal to be a part of it. We've lost a great humanitarian in Mother Teresa. But she left many things behind, and one of them was a lesson. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, and she said then, when we work hard all day long, it feels like we're only a drop in the ocean. But if our individual drops were not in the ocean would be dry. Each one of us, each one of you is a drop in our ocean. And without each of you, we would be empty and dry. Please never forget how important you are. Thank you. God bless you in the coming year, and Merry Christmas.
Is this thing on? Can everybody hear? Yep. We're given a big task today, Brent Mers, Boyd Lear, and I, to explain what's happened over the last couple of years. And the interesting thing is that if you look at weather patterns in western Kansas, this isn't the worst drought. In some cases, maybe it is. But it's been a huge challenge. But your co-op has continued to prosper through that. And so our challenge today is to report to you and explain how does your co-op work when it's not raining. So what's so special about the Garden City Co-op? 2 years ago, Gary Friesen from Scott Co-op and I were sitting at a table at the Arthur Capper Cooperative Center, and we had a provocative speaker. And he didn't do business with his local co-op. And his job was there to spur us on and evaluate what we were doing to make ourselves relevant to a big farmer such as he was. And as he went through his speech, one of the things he finally said was, so do you people, we were all cooperative managers and employees, do you people think that there's something special about a co-op? Is it something magical? And those words have haunted me for 2 years. And so I believe there is, and that's what I'm here today to try and explain some of the magic. But the first thing is, rather than just ratios, let's talk about some cool stuff about the Garden City Co-op. In a good year, we'll handle 30 million bushels of grain. Now that's, you know, at 1,000 bushels a truck, that's 60 or 30,000 trucks in and 30,000 trucks out. So how many is 60,000 trucks? What would that look like? Well, if they all showed up the same day, if all 30,000 of your trucks showed up and behind them was 30,000 Wind River trucks outbound, the line would reach from Garden City to Corpus Christi, Texas, which, as it's reported by a lot of you farmers in the Gano area, that's about what your harvest line looks like. I think that's an exaggeration, but I feel your pain. But stop and think about what the group that Boyd just recognized, the group of employees and all those that are out at their position today couldn't be here. It's a big job when you stop and think about it all happening at one day and all the coordination and all the tickets and everything that happens. So how much stuff do we handle? Well, if we took a good wheat crop, we produce enough wheat to make 7.5 billion hamburger buns. We could provide a hamburger bun for every person in the world. We provide enough corn and milo to local feedlots that if you took the weight that we put on steers, that weight added at local feedlots, not the total weight of the steer, but what we add would create 243 million hamburgers. So we could get everybody in the United States almost a hamburger. That's pretty hard to think about. 7 billion people, 300 million Americans all eating hamburgers. So what if we had a hamburger fry for Garden City, Kansas? Well, we could feed one hamburger to everybody in Garden City every day for 20 years. And we'd still have 7.25 billion buns left over, which may have something to do with why they invented chicken sandwiches in the first place. Or maybe that's the whole hot dog and bun deal working. I'm not sure. But if you stop and think about it, what you produce in 1 year that we handle for you would feed this community every day for 20 years. We handle a lot of stuff. Now, I hadn't thought about all this until last week. Bob Almus's wife, Sandy, asked me to come and speak to a 4th grade class. And I wasn't sure what to tell 4th graders about the Garden City Co-op until I started to think about what we do. So I've been your manager for 10 years. This is the first time it occurred to me how much stuff goes on and what this group of employees actually do. So it is magic. That guy was wrong. There is something magic about the Garden City Co-op and about the cooperative movement as a whole. Let's look. Everybody knows what grain receipts look like through dry years, through wet years. Lots of volatility, ranging all the way from recently a low of 15 million bushels up to 35 million bushels. So that's a lot of volatility. Brent made reference to the lender, and we have several lenders here. If there's one thing lenders don't like, it's a lot of volatility. They like to know what's going to happen next year. So how do we assure them as the Garden City Co-op that we're a good partner and we're a good investment? We've materially changed our business. That's how, and it is magic. Here is from 2005 to 2013, and so the red line is the grain purchases for any given year. And as you can see, the cash savings, Brent explained how we're figuring cash now, which really removes depreciation expense, so we get a more accurate idea of what's going on in our business. Not surprising to anybody, for years and years and years, the co-op's prosperity was closely tied to your production. If you had big harvest, we made big money. If you didn't have a big harvest, we didn't make big money. But a couple of years ago, through some of the structural things that our board has allowed us to do, we've changed that. And now you see the savings line continue on, even through some challenging years. And so, that's an exciting trend. Now, it'll be interesting when you come back next year, and hopefully this is recovered because we're expecting a bigger and bigger harvest. We had a better harvest this fall harvest, and wheat looks good. Can we maintain that spread? And when the grain comes up, the savings goes up as well. That's our plan. I'll let you know next year. Brent talks about $28.5 million that we've invested since 2009. We've added 800,000 bushel to the Shields location. We've added over 800,000 bushel to the Wolf location. We've added 800,000 bushel to the Deerfield location. All highly efficient concrete, new legs in 2 of them. And a new crop production facility that I just got an email yesterday that finally all of our permitting is done and we're ready to open for business. That's a lot of stuff over the last few years. And then the big one, our new facility that we're so proud of, south of town. Tom Lear said something to me before the meeting that I want to relate to you. And that is the Garden City Co-op and ag retailers in general have come to the farm year after year and said, come do business with us. You come to us. Well, we've moved south of town now, and we're saying, please do business with us because we're coming to you. And we can't be more excited about having a new facility in a long time underserved area. But we're not going to stop there. So coming soon, by next fall harvest, we're going to have a brand new facility that looks just like Plymell at Rock Island, which is located 8 miles north of Hickok or just northeast of Ulysses. It's very similar to Plymell. It's in the middle of a sustainable, highly productive, good water area. And it answers a question that we've had for, Lynn, 30 years or more at an elevator that we couldn't get trucks in and out of at Hickok. It's a great solution. And it came from down within the ranks how to solve the problem. Don't keep adding on to a bad situation and make it worse. Go out and fix it. Now this is low. I'd like to say that's what it looks like right now. Kim would like to say that's what it'll look like by next wheat harvest, but it won't. This is actually some photoshopping. The elevator ends right there today. But with a little luck and some weather, by next year, when you show up at the low elevator, we'll have a new leg and another 1 million bushel. So that's good. I mean, it's good that your co-op's doing well. It's good that your co-op's making investments in it. But all this new storage costs a lot of money. How does that affect you on the farm? Well, we've added 5.4 million bushels of new storage. So do the math on that. That's 5,400 trucks that you're not in line with. So that saves about 15 days worth of scale time that we used to make you wait while we got the grain out so we could let you in. Those trucks aren't showing up during your harvest. They're still showing up. They just show up when you're not there. The other thing it does, we need to be profitable. We need to keep doing the right kind of things, and part of that is Ken's excellent job in the past of marketing grain. Well, this allows him more flexibility. One of the problems we have is, and we'll still be challenged with this, but not to the extent, when we have a late wheat harvest and a dry land corn crop and you don't have any time to turn those elevators around, how do you do it? Well, we do the best we can, and then we start emptying trucks during corn harvest. This allows us a little more space, a little more time to get out of your way, so when you're geared up, you're going. And more importantly, it allows us to control our own situation. We get to sell grain when we want to, not when we have to accommodate you. Those are the facilities. $28.5 million worth of facilities to this point. In the next year, $14 million worth of new facilities, and not one of them works without the right employees. So here's the magic part. We've talked about ratios, we've talked about facts and figures. Well, in medicine, sometimes medical tests tell the doctor how the patient's doing. Sometimes they use it at the autopsy to figure out what happened. What we really need are ratios that tell us what's about to happen. How good is it going to get? Well, let me give you some of those about our people. When you show up at the elevator and there are clouds in the west and you want to get some more loads in, that's no time for a rookie. When you are having a bug challenge out in the field, that's no time to ask a rookie what to do. When you're trying to prepare for your tax season and you want your billing statements to be right and all those kind of things, that's no time for a rookie to be doing that. So we made improvements in all those areas, and we did it because we've got excellent, committed, long-term employees. Let me give you a couple of ratios or figures about how that works. This fall alone, we have done employer verification on 6 employees that were getting a mortgage for a new house. Now that says to me, there's a person that's planning on making a career here, and there's somebody that we can count on for the next 20, 30, in Ken's case, 40 years. We unfortunately do lose some employees from time to time. And we have a great location manager that is moving into a business with his family and going to leave us. Now, that's a location manager. We have 127 employees. In most organizations, that's just one of the things that happen. We were so shaken by that, that actually shows up in the board report. The chief operation officer reports to the board, gosh, we've got a great employee and we're going to lose him, and so we're going to have to go out and find another one. That's the level that we take turnover at. But the best story that I can tell you is we have an employee that is way past retirement, whose health is finally making him retire. And he had a conversation with a 21-year-old employee out of Lowe. And he said, you know what? You need to stay here and make your career. This is a great place to work. I've been here 20 years. It's the best thing that happened, and I hope you will do the same thing. And the employee said, yeah, that's what my dad tells me too. So the way that it works, and I'm glad Boyd had everybody stand up. I won't make them go up and down, but I'm proud to be a part of this team. I'm proud to work for this board of directors that has our interest at heart. I'm proud to be part of the team that serves you. And when you look into the future, we can build new stuff, we can commit to your business, but none of it works without the people that make it work. And that's why I'm so proud that so many of you are there. And I hope you'll come back and tell your coworkers how much we appreciate the job that they all do. A year ago, I showed this, and this is the one picture that took the crowd's breath. I don't think nobody remembers what I said last year, but everybody remembers Kevin Dixon's grandson. Well, it's a year later, and the poor guy, he's got a lot on his mind. I mean, the toll of time is really wearing. He's still wearing the Garden City Co-op, but boy, that guy's about puckered out. So why is that? He's going to be the class of 2030. We talk about those kind of trends all the time. 2030, 2050, by 2050 there's going to be another billion people or whatever it is. Let me tell you, it's here. For those of you that had kids and grandkids, it's here. It won't take very long until Kevin will be at this guy's graduation as he walks across the stage. So no wonder he has all the burdens. He's got to help us figure out how to feed another billion people or so. Thank you so much for coming. 186 voting members has to be some kind of record, Otis. I don't know. That's the best I ever remember. But we appreciate your commitment to us. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you. Thank you very much for supporting your local co-op.
Now it's time for us to open the floor for new business. The first item we have under new business, excuse me, is changes that we need to make in our articles and bylaws. Some of these are just things we need to clean up, but another big part of it is we need to make some latitude so that we can use Section 199 when we choose to of the IRS code. So to get started with that, I'll ask Terry Berthoff, our attorney, to give us up to date on what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I always begin this presentation with a congratulations. It's been easy lately. Cooperatives in Kansas have made money lately, and so I get to go across Kansas and congratulate the cooperatives on the profits that they've been enjoying in these last several years. The first commitment goes, of course, to the board of directors and the planning and commitment that they make to this being a successful cooperative. And then to management for the job that management's done in directing and overseeing the cooperative. I'm reiterating what the chairman and president have told you in congratulating the employees for the excellent job that they've done. And again, like John just mentioned, the real congratulations goes to the members of the cooperative and their loyal patronage of the cooperative, and understanding that it truly is a magical place. It does turn your agriculture into profits, and it's good for everyone. So when you go home, congratulate your neighbors and friends who weren't fortunate enough to come to the meeting, and especially congratulations goes to you who are here supporting your cooperative with your attendance at this meeting. It's somewhat intimidating because my bosses are all here. Mr. Mitch Williams is the president of Kansas Farmer Service, and that's one of my chief clients. Mr. McClellan is on the board of directors of Kansas Farmer Service Association, and so I work for all of you as well as them directly directing my activities. But the presentation I want to make to you today is recommendations regarding the articles of incorporation and bylaws of the cooperative. As I was coming in, someone commented on all the red ink that you see. My thought, and management agreed with the thought, was that you ought to be able to see the changes that we're presenting to you, so that if you have any specific questions, we can go over it in as much detail as possible. But we're really talking about three significant changes to the articles and bylaws. As the chairman, Mr. Lear, mentioned, the first and the primary reason for bringing the changes to you today is to allow for the opportunity to take advantage of Section 199 of the Internal Revenue Code. Section 199 actually allows a pretty unbelievable deduction to cooperatives that deal in grain. The legislature the federal legislature enacted 199 in order to encourage domestic production. And your lobbyists in Washington said, for cooperatives, said, well, if it's good for domestic production of widgets and other things, shouldn't cooperatives and farmers be able to take advantage of the same thing? And surprising to me, the IRS and Congress said, well, you're right, they should be able to take advantage of this. So 199 allows a cooperative to claim a deduction not to exceed the amount of wages paid, but equal to the gross proceeds paid by grain, for grain and other commodities sold by the cooperative. So essentially, you can have a deduction from your income taxes for the amount of 1/2 of the wages paid by the cooperative. A lot of cooperatives have been using this in order to shore up their balance sheet or possibly to share that deduction with members. It can be passed through to you. Some larger farmers, maybe if you have a significant number of employees, may already be taking advantage of Section 199. And before we get too involved in it too, I would remind those farmers that they can decide and notify the cooperative in advance that they would rather use, if they think it's to their advantage, to use Section 199 and not necessarily allow the cooperative to take advantage of Section 199. That change really is in Article 2, Section 1 of the bylaws that we're looking at here. The existing bylaws essentially require you to allocate every profit that the cooperative makes, and Section 199 allows you to take a deduction to the extent that you qualify for the 199 deduction that I just described to you. The second change is to allow for, not require, electronic voting. The cooperative already allows voting by mail at the discretion of the board of directors, and this change will allow the cooperative in the future to participate as in the 21st century, to allow members to vote in appropriate instances by electronic means as well as voting by mail. Now, that's not going to always be appropriate, and you have to think about it, because that means that Aunt Sarah in California, who's a large landowner, she gets the vote too. So you may not be appropriate in all instances to allow electronic balloting, but there are times, like today, when we're adopting these bylaw changes, where maybe it would be entirely appropriate to allow every member of the cooperative to have a voice and vote in the vision that the board of directors is recommending to you. The third change is regarding dissolution, and I'll always point out, it's obvious to you that the cooperative isn't for sale. Nothing lasts forever though, and the cooperative's current articles and bylaws, if you read them carefully enough, will provide that in the event of the dissolution of the cooperative, that the person, after all of the debts and liabilities of the cooperative have been paid, then all of the money would be distributed on the basis of stock ownership in the cooperative. Well, sometimes that may not be appropriate, especially if we have a difference between common stock and preferred stock and the redemption of equities. And so the third change is going to specify that on the redemption of the cooperative, your equity is all going to be distributed based on your total stock investment in the cooperative. Those are the significant changes. As Mr. Lear mentioned, some of the red is just modernization to remove capitalization. Every time we take out a capitalization for stock, preferred stock, it gives you a red line. Those are the significant changes, though, for you to consider. If you have any questions of me before I turn the chair back over to your chairman. Any questions? Well, I'll still be here if there's questions before or after the meeting. Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion to approve the changes?
I move we approve the article changes to the bylaws.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Any questions? If not, the way we'll vote is to take your ballot and raise your ballot if you agree with the change. Okay, thank you. And raise your ballot if you disagree with the change. Okay, motion carried. Is there any other new business that we need to bring before this group? If not, I'll call upon Randy Richmeyer come give the nominating committee report.
Thank you, Boyd. I'd like to thank all of you for the proration rates this year. It was very nice rates. Kim in particular, thank you. The nominating committee consists of myself, Bill Moffman, Bruce Howard, and there are currently 2 positions open this year. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I would nominate Tim Miller and Lynn Teeter.
Are there any other nominations from the floor for Board of Directors of the Garden City Co-op? Any other nominations? Seeing no nominations, I would entertain a vote to cast an unanimous ballot. Okay, is there a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, congratulations, Tim, Lynn. Lynn is currently an associate director, so we'll have to find another associate to replace Lynn. Thank you. So I guess, Lynn, you don't have to make your candidate speech. John.
This is my favorite part of the annual meeting every year when we get to recognize the employees that have served us so well. We give recognition to employees every 5 years as they reach that milestone, and so this year we have 3 employees that have been with us for 5 years. If you'd come up, please. Peggy Munoz, Kyle Korf, Roxanne Borsick. First one receiving hers is Peggy Munoz. Peggy came to us 5 years ago and worked in a variety of divisions, started out in grain accounting actually, and then moved over to fill a huge void in our safety department. And I think Kirby Bradley here would say that Peggy Munoz is absolutely one of the most critical employees that we have. She's the one that makes our safety program work and gives such great support to Toby and Kirby and the rest of the people. And we can't thank you enough, Peggy. Thank you. Standing next to her is Roxanne Borsick. Roxanne came here 5 years ago as a truck driver. She's our first lady truck driver. She does a great job. Roxanne's important to you twice. She's important when you're waiting in line and you're pushing hard for anhydrous and you want to make sure that the tanks are there. Roxanne's the one that gets the load to the tanks so we can fill up the nurse trailers. The other time that it's important is when Roxanne's driving by your house with a load of anhydrous. She is a very safe, effective truck driver, and so we appreciate her safety record and her willingness to slow down and do things right. And we've been so lucky that, we rarely miss having a load of anhydrous ready for you, and a lot of that goes to you, Roxanne. So thank you for yours. Standing next to her is Kyle Korf. Of course, Kyle has been a crop consultant here for 5 years. I talked earlier about that's no place for a rookie. Kyle certainly isn't. He wasn't when he came here. He came from the crop consulting world and stepped right in and has been doing a great job for farmers. And I actually had a farmer tell me the other day that if I got to figure out a way to keep Kyle Korf, because if Kyle were to leave the co-op, he's not sure how he'd continue farming. It's a true story. So we appreciate all you guys very much, and thanks for 5 great years. Next, we need the 2 10-year guys, Joe Varela and me. 5 years ago, I tried to give the speech starting in 1958 in a small eastern Colorado farm in Boyd Company off, so I'm not even going to start that. But I've been proud to be your manager for 10 years. Thank you very much. Joe, you saw him on the video. He's the guy showing up before daylight, making the coffee, and he's the guy that's still, there after dark. I'm so appreciative of guys like Joe and what they do. They're the guys that when you're exhausted after a long day of work in the field and ready to go home and get some supper, these elevator guys are the ones that keep them open. They get the grain dry, they get it turned, and they're ready for you the next morning. So thanks for doing that for 10 years, Joe. I appreciate it.
John, you gotta let me say a little bit more. You can't get away that easy. You thought you were.
I said thanks.
No, it's a great pleasure to give this 10-year pin to John. Like I said before, I've really appreciated what you've done for our co-op, and I'm glad to be able to say I was on the board when John McClellan was here. We are here because of what you've been able to do and the things you've accomplished with our cooperative, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. The next one is a 15-year pin. Unfortunately, Brett Butler from up at Friend couldn't be here, but we do have another 15-year pin, and that's Cuthberto De Leon, better known as Beto. Come on up. I'll take credit for this one. I actually hired Beto 15 years ago. For those of you that remember, I was here as Vice President of Feed before I took over as General Manager, and Beto was one of the first hires I made. We were running the feed mill 24/7 at that period of time, and Beto spent a lot of nights out there with this crew by himself out at the feed mill. And the thing that I remember about Beto from that time is that we had several shift supervisors that would go through and look at the mix cards and figure out which ones were the easiest to make, and those are the ones that they would take, and at the end of their shift, they would hand over the cards that really required a lot of hard work to do. That went to the next guy. Never once did Beto do that. We continually got praise from Beto for him sorting through, taking the tough ones, staying there all night, getting things done. And then the next day, when the other crew showed up, Beto was ready to turn over the easier work. That 15 years, he's still doing that. We're excited he just took over the tennis elevator, and I got great reports all harvest from that. So thank you very much for 15 good years. Now we're getting into the short timers. Daniel Hines, 25 years. Daniel, come on up. I've said this at several annual meetings. Daniel, congratulations. When we bought Sullivan Grain and when we merged with Dayton, we got facilities, but really what we acquired was great employees. And so Daniel has been down at the Hickok location for 25 years. He's been doing a great job for Sullivan, and we were so happy when we were able to acquire Sullivan that Daniel came over. He's been serving the farmers in that area for 25 years and doing a great job. We couldn't appreciate you more. Thank you. Last year I got to give a 40-year pin to Kent. We continually, year after year after year, give 35-year pins, and we're going to have another 40 next year. But we have a 35-year award winner this year, and that's Johnny Liker. John, if you could come up. Johnny, you spanned a lot of us. I could talk for a while, and then I could have Harley come up, and he could talk for a while. You've been here a long, long time. Johnny's been in grain. He's done it all. And now runs the warehouse and keeps everything straight in the lubricants and drives the oil truck. And he's been serving the Garden City Co-op for 35 years. So thank you very much, Johnny. You've done a great job. Okay, speaking of short timers, I got 3 guys I'd like to come up here, if I could. Oh, one more before I go on to that. Robert Oropeza is not well and unable to be here, but he just completed his 20-year pin as well. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Robert. If I could have Terry Berthoff, Vern May, and Ed Michael come up here, please. Okay, now, I talked about turnover, man. The one thing that a general manager does not want to do is turn over all of his closest advisors in 1 year. But it's happening to the Garden City Co-op, and fortunately, these guys have developed strength within the Garden City Co-op that we didn't have when they started working here. But also, they've developed people in their own organizations to follow in their footsteps and continue to give us the great service. And so you didn't see an interruption this audit as we move from Ed to Nick, and that's the same way it is all across the board. Now these guys, without going into each of their resume, have all been serving the Garden City Co-op for roughly 40 years. Or serving, in your case, Vern, Co-Bank for 40 years. You've been here at the Co-op about 15. And so Terry has been our attorney for 40 years. Vern's been our loan man for 15 years, but has 40 years experience. And Ed Michael has been with Lindbergh and Vogel for 40 years and our lead auditor for 30 of them. That's a lot of expertise standing up here. So here's what I want you to know about these guys. For all 3 of them, their names were interchangeable to those of us on the board and in management. It didn't matter whether we were talking about something that Ed was going to make us do, something that Terry was going to make us do, something that Vern May was going to make us do. Their names were synonymous with discipline. Brent said one of the things that you celebrate in your balance sheet is your whole history. For 40, 15, and 30 years, they brought the leadership of discipline to our organization, and they changed the co-op. And so we weren't being mean, we weren't being disrespectful when we use your name synonymously with stuff that we probably wouldn't do if we didn't have to. But if we don't, they're going to come in and make us. So I want to, as a group, recognize all of you and thank you very much for your service. Now we've got some stuff for you here. I think we'll start with Vern. We've got each of you kind of a fun thing of the month club. 1 month you get salsa, 1 month you get wine, 1 month all kinds of stuff, and something to wear around the house. Now, here's the thing you need to know about Vern. Not only is he a banker to cooperatives, but he also officiates high school football. And if Vern would have been on the field Sunday night, that whole debacle between the Giants and the Redskins wouldn't have happened, because Vern doesn't miss stuff like that. But Vern, I don't know if you quit retiring, or if you'd retired from reffing, but we've got you a shirt that says banker and you're off duty. Ed, we've got you the same stuff so you can remember us once a month for several months. And Ed is all about process, structure, doing things the same way every time. And so we've got Ed something that we thought would fit his, and his shirt says, "Auditing, Living the Dream." We actually have another shirt for you too. I think it says, Ed's idea of destroying a hotel room while you're on tour is not filling out the comment card. Terry? Terry, we rely on these guys all the time, but Terry probably gets the most calls from us. Whether it's Caroline, whether it's Ken, whether it's Kirby, somebody's always calling Terry to ask what we can and we can't do, tell him what we want to do, and then he tells us what we need to do. And so for you, Terry, your shirt says, "It's okay if you disagree with me. I can't force you to be right." We've got one more employee retirement. Set these on employees. The chairman of the board. Boyd's been, wow, that's loud. You guys been listening to that this whole time? So Boyd's been on the board for 12 years, which means that by our articles and bylaws, which I probably don't agree with, and Harley, you wouldn't either, but Boyd has term limited office. He served 9 of those 12 years as the chairman of the board that gave me direction. So there's several things I'd like to say about Boyd, but the one thing that I want to convey, more important than anything, Boyd contributed with innovation. He contributed with dedication. He was supportive of employees. He's been a great guy to work for. But more than anything else, Boyd served me to be the rock that I knew I could hold on to. Because Boyd only asked you to do one thing, and that is do what's right. Don't do what makes the most money. Don't do what's easily convenient at the time. Don't do something that just makes it go away for now. All Boyd has asked the employee group and myself as a whole is just do the right thing. And I appreciate that so much. We're faced with a lot of big decisions, but when you have that guiding light that knows that you'll have our back no matter what, it made it very easy to manage over these last 10 years. And so, Boyd, here's your rocking chair. I hope you enjoy your retirement from the board for a year and then hurry back and you and Richmar come back on as quick as you can. Thank you, Boyd.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm not sure why the rocking chair, but I did get a haircut last week, and I thought I was getting old when the lady did my hair would say, "What do you want me to do at the top?" What do you do with this? And then this last week I was getting my hair cut and getting ready for this meeting, and she said, I knew I was old when she said, "Do you want me to trim your eyebrows?" So I guess that's why the chair. Well, thank you very much. Now it's time for our question and answer, which is an important part of this meeting. If you have any questions for me, for the board, or for the staff, this is the time.
Yeah, works good. I just drink coffee with a lot of guys that over the years have told me, well, you're just paying more going to the co-op. You'll never see that money back, or your heirs will get it. And I like going to coffee now. I got that check the other day. It just proves them so wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll get to the moment you've been waiting for, the door prizes. Turn it over to Ken.
Okay, as we've been the last number of years, we're going to
Hold on.
How loud's that? Okay, that's good. I just was, after he said something about trimming his eyebrows, I thought, he's younger than me. They asked to trim your ears too. So he's got that coming in. But what we're going to do is give away early redemption of stock up to $1,000. If you've only got $800 in stock, you only get $800 of it back. But so we'll draw your number. There'll be 5 of them, and when you the winners, who do they need to come talk to?
Either come in and talk to Chris Murphy or Brett Mers, and we'll get the check for you once you.
Yep. So tomorrow or anytime in the near future, just show up and tell them you want your money. So anyway, we'll go ahead and draw, and I'll ask this young lady up here if she'll draw our numbers for us. Okay. First one. First number. The last 3 numbers are 4, 6, 8. Rod Thomas. Yeah, I'm bad with names, so you're going to have to say out your name. I can't remember my name hardly. I forgot my father-in-law's name at a rehearsal dinner. So. The next one is 455. The last 3 numbers. Okay. The third one is 491. And name? The fourth one, the last 3 numbers are 634. And name? The last one is 539. Oh, no, we can't have 3s. We better draw it. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Now, we're going to give away the prizes for the lubricant drawing we have. So every time you guys buy lube oils, you automatically put your name in the drawing. And we drew 5 finalists a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to call your name and ask you to come up here in a little bit. Kirby, would you? We've got 5 poker chips, all different colors. You put them on one on each prize. The box is a humidifier for a gun safe. Set of keys there for the razor. It's a 2012 575, I believe. With a $1,500 Cinex gift card and 2 $750 Cinex gift cards. First one, Steve Sterling. I don't think Steve's here, but Larry Goss is going to come up. Next one, Steve Stone. Steve here. Boyd will take you. Next one, the Triple G Partnership, Roy Graham. Next one, 6M Partnerships, Tim Miller. And the last one, D. Lightner Farms, Inc., I believe Dale's here. Is Steve not here? Still, boy, you want to grab one for him? So there's 5 gift bags up here. Each one of these gift bags has a colored chip in it. So if you guys would come up and grab a bag, and your chip inside the bag will match the gift. Open your bags. Why do you want to know what's in it? What do we got? Boyd drew for Steve. You got the gun safe. Roy, $750 gift card. Yeah. Tim, $1,500 gift card. Steve Sterling, $750 gift card. Dale Leitner, he's going to share his 4-wheeler with me. Congratulations, guys. Appreciate your business, and thank you.
That concludes our business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. Yeah, don't leave after we adjourn. We've got the video. So, is there a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Don't leave. Video.
Our founder, R.J. Ackley, in 1919, had some very strong attitudes about the cooperative principles and the need for a co-op to be of service, to continue to think of new ways to help members and be completely focused on their needs and the need of doing the greatest good for the greatest number. I think Mr. Ackley's presence is still in our boardroom today, because if you look at the lineage of board members, many of the people that took us through the huge growth phase of concrete elevator expansion in the 40s and 50s and 60s had the opportunity to serve with and learn from Mr. Ackley. And
those members continued on that tradition and passed it on to the members that served through the 60s and the 70s and then on to more expansion in the 80s and 90s, and it continues on today.
I'm proud to have been involved with the Garden City Co-op, more than just selling grain and buying inputs, but I think I'm proud to have been on the board particularly as a family flow, kind of kid town that we have 4 generations. I've been on the board, and that's not really true, but it's kind of fun to kid him about it. But I'm proud to have followed my grandpa and my dad and my brother to be involved in the board. I think that's important.
I viewed the Garden City Co-op as an extension of the farm itself. It replaces some of the help we may need and facilitates a lot of the functions that the farm itself as an individual farmer can't do by himself. So whether it's marketing the grain or hauling the grain or storing the grain, so I think that's huge for an individual farmer.
Garden City Co-op is a locally owned facility. The others aren't. So any profits from the corporate world, most of those are going to go back east or wherever. They're gone. They're not going to stay here. Well, the Garden City Co-op, that money stays here, and it impacts Southwest Kansas.
You've got to be able to take the risk. The fear of failure has got to come behind the anticipation of success. When I was on the board, we did a lot of things that didn't work, but we kept trying. We had several things that worked immensely well. If you're not willing to take those risks, you're not going to survive.
I'd tell the boards, I said, it's like a piece of cloth. The fabric of a cooperative is in the strength of the fabric, and the threads going one way are service, the threads going other way are the prorations and finance. That you can't pull out one set of threads, the other doesn't stand by itself, just like your jeans. They're going to fall apart. And how well that's woven together, the strength of the thread and the quality of the thread going both ways will make the difference in the strength of the cooperative. I think at Garden City, we've had excellent management that understood that has always tried to keep a strong finance, and yet a lot of the times the board wants some other services, maybe like a hay mill, that we've been able to keep it in good enough balance that it wasn't destructive to our balance sheet. Destroy the balance sheet, you've destroyed the co-op.
The intergenerational relationship of the Garden City Co-op and this tradition of great-grandfathers, grandfathers, fathers, sons and daughters that have served on our co-op board brings a lot of stability and dependability to the Garden City Co-op. There's a feeling of responsibility and an acknowledgement that this has been a great company since 1919.
As far as being proud of anything really that I always think of as things that we done. I hope I had an impact, and I wanted to have, but getting to be with people like I'm with now, and through the years the different board members, I was proudest, I think, to be able to say that we got along, we were able to work together, and we now have a cooperative that surely I know that we're all proud of, a strong cooperative.
and enjoy some time with your neighbors and friends out here. We've got some gifts for you. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you coming here today. Thank you very much.